Cuando pronuncie tu nombre, la voz azul de la noche, estrecharé a mi guitarra tu voz, tu antiguo reproche. Estrecharé a mi guitarra tu voz, tu antiguo reproche. Me pedirás que me quede, pero tantea el olvido. Cuando tu adiós en silencio quedó, me alejó el camino. Cuando tu adiós en silencio quedó, me alejó el camino. Ido a la tarde un poema y ni una copla me da. Dolidos mis ojos tristes verán, perdidos anhelos. Y en esta samba ausente tendrá un pañuelo. He recorrido caminos, he desandado senderos, como una copla perdida se irá mi son guitarrero, como una copla perdida se irá mi son guitarrero. Quiero volver en un sueño hasta mi propia partida para decirle a mi tierra y amor mi ausencia sentida, para decirle a mi tierra y a vos mi ausencia sentida. Pido a la tarde un poema y ni una copla me da. Dolidos mis ojos tristes verán, perdidos anhelos. Y en esta samba ausente vendrá un pañuelo.
And we're live. Welcome to episode 11 of Inside the Sulphurbath.
Welcome.
Got a little audience with us tonight. That's awesome. What's up, Shaun? Shaun Randol. How are you doing?
Mike Simon. Great to be here.
Cool.
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Excellent. Shaun's joining us tonight as our guest host, and we're really pleased to have him. For anybody at home that doesn't know, Shaun Randol is editor-in-chief of The Mantle, and we work with The Mantle. We're kind of sister organizations at this point, aren't we?
Fans of your show should be fans of our website by now.
Exactly,
because
yes.
For the past, since episode 3, I think.
I think consistently since episode 3, yeah.
One writer or editor or some family member of one sort or another. So a nice symbiotic relationship has blossomed.
It's been great, yes. Cha-E Tain, Justin Petropoulos, Cameron Crane last week.
Yep, Kavitha, Rajagopalan, Chris Haddix, myself.
So it's been a great lineup. And tonight you've brought us Emmanuel, right?
Yep, and there will be many more.
So tonight, Emmanuel Iduma. So just to let everybody know at home what's going on, tonight we have a really great show. I'm really excited about tonight. We have author Emmanuel Iduma with us. We also have artist Carr and the band Dead Sexy Sheila is with us tonight. Dead Sexy Sheila, we first were hooked up with Troy Odell, and we were going to just talk about some music, but then we found out that the rest of the guys could come and join us, and we're going to have a really great live performance in the house tonight. So stay tuned. Anybody that's seeing us right now definitely wants to stay tuned throughout the whole show.
And then, of course, the final jam session at the end.
Yes, and our improvised breakdown at the end of the show, which is always a lot of fun. That's going to be really cool this week, I think.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm a big fan of your show. I've watched every episode since we've been involved. And when I can't make it here to be here live, I'm watching online and blasting out to my millions of Twitter followers to do the same.
Cool.
But I know that the episodes start with an explanation of the video that the audience has just seen.
That's true. Yes. Usually Blaine is the one that brings that up, and I'm like, oh,
I
yeah,
know.
that's right, Blaine. I forgot. But, yeah, so every episode we start with a little short film or something that I've put together. This one is selected works from a travelogue that I've been working on. I did some traveling in Europe in, I guess it was 2002. Remember being the year after 9/11. And I took an extensive trip that led me from Western Europe down into Istanbul and back up to Scotland again. And during that time, I took a lot of footage and videotaped a whole lot of things. And so the short that we showed at the beginning of this was part of that travelogue. That was some of the stuff that I experienced when I was in Spain, Andalusia, Granada, and Barcelona. And what glues that piece together is I came across this old man sitting with an acoustic guitar in front of a church, and he just found that one spot where the acoustics on the street were just perfect. I don't know, for anybody that hasn't walked the streets of somewhere like Spain or medieval Italy or somewhere like that, everything's stone, and the streets are a bit smaller, so you get this great acoustic sound in the streets. I mean, you can hear somebody talking a block away. And I came across this guy, and there was the fullness of the sound of his guitar. And it was just like I had to stop right away, and I asked him through tourist sign language, basically, if I could film him, and I, tipped him out some, and was just like, "Thank you for letting me." But he kind of glues that together, the sound, and then showing the other images.
So the audience was able to hear the sound. 'Cause
they were, yeah.
Okay. And there was some religious imagery in there as well.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of that had to do with, because a lot of that is just kind of the stuff that you see when you're traveling through Western Europe and a lot of the big cities. Yeah. I was studied comparative religions in college and was really always fascinated with kind of mysticism and different takes from different cultures, what is considered otherworldly and mystic and metaphysical. And so a lot of the symbology that's behind that and the iconography has always captured my eye. There's one quick thing in there that I'm sure people will think about the Illuminati right away just because there's an eye and a pyramid, but it was the hand of Christ leading into that, actually. And I came across a number of churches that had quote-unquote Illuminati symbology, and I don't know, that's maybe a whole other episode for anybody that studied the Bavarian Illuminati, but a lot of the churches and cathedrals throughout Europe are kind of rife with that imagery. And I was very fascinated by it, and went around collecting. Being in the right place at the right time was a big part of that. Catching a pigeon sitting on the head of Christ, or but to me, just the guy sitting in front of the church. He wasn't inside the church. There was something about that he was just outside the door of the church, and that
is that symbolic of something? He's just right there. He's on the threshold of Christ's living room, but he's there amongst the sinning mortals as well.
Yeah.
Singing. Could you understand what he was singing about?
I couldn't. I assume, and I'm not sure if I'm assuming correctly, but I think it's a love ballad just in how it sounds, and it's got the flamenco style to it. He was playing a classical nylon string guitar, and the tone of it was just really, really brilliant, but not speaking Spanish. I'm sure, if anybody's Spanish speakers out there should translate that, and we'll maybe put something on the site. But.
Or your Spanish viewers, right? Because this is worldwide. Anybody can access this live stream.
That would be great. It'd be wonderful if somebody's sitting right down the street from that church, maybe tuning into us. That would be an amazing thing. We were talking about symbols before the program,
and how you can read different myths or symbology into just about anything if you're fixated on that particular subject matter in the subliminal realms of your mind. So I don't know. I was trying to draw on a symbol of the musician on the threshold, but maybe there are other symbols that could be drawn for that, or none at all, right?
Well, I also
no metaphors.
There was I like that. I like the idea of that, and I think when I'm looking for something to film, I'm conscious of that. It's a mental puzzle or challenge, to try and do that, and that's kind of what art criticism is about. Everybody gets something out of a different out of a Jackson Pollock. You can
Jackson Pollock can be read 100 different times. You'll get 100 different reviews of it because of what it means to that person in that moment at that time. So it would be interesting to see or hear what other people might have to say about a musician singing a love ballad on a church steps in a medieval town for a tourist.
Yes, right. And yeah, it's a lot of complexity inside that. There's some details in there too that I don't know if are noticed, but so first of all, there's the church was undergoing some sort of construction, and they had this like weave work up above it to stop the rubble from falling down onto the street. If you look in the detail of that on the archive, you can see that right above him, it's kind of roped off more or less. So there's this constructive change happening in the church, as well as I slowed down the shutter speed on that a lot, so that the people that are walking by him are very much like kind of ghostly figures. You see the trails of them, but because he's not moving that much, he seems stable, and he's not slurring at all. But everybody walking by is kind of like a ghost. And
so that's your own movie magic happening.
A little bit of video magic,
yeah. Imagery.
But that was just a fantastic trip, and I think the power behind collecting these images and bringing them back is not only does it kind of keeps that adventure alive for me that I went through, but it also allows me at different stages of my life to go back and look at it and just like we're doing now, like analyze it maybe in a different way, and it comes out as something very cool.
Right, because when you're in the moment and you're filming, you have no end.
Exactly.
You just know it needs to be done, and something will be done with this, maybe, or maybe not.
Well, I felt as I was on the road, there was a certain amount of, okay, I got to know my camera settings, and I got to know cinematography and how far away and my focus and all of that. But well above and beyond that, credit is due to being in the right place at the right time, especially during that trip and how I was filming. There was, I think I had my camera on me every single day that I went out. It was 6 months hosteling and basically worrying about my camera. At one point in Istanbul, it was stolen from me, but I got it back, which is a whole long story. It's great. But I remember there was one day where I didn't go out, and I thought, okay, today I'm going to be the one on this trip, not my camera. And sure enough, that was the day that I just one thing after another that I was like, oh, my camera's not
elephants
with me.
Running down the street and
well, not elephants, Hare Krishna is what it was. It was I remember walking. It was in Prague actually, and I was like, okay, Prague today, no camera. Walking down the street, and it was a group of maybe 50 Hare Krishna came at me, singing and dancing, and they surrounded me. It was like a line of them, and they went like this, whoosh, like I was cutting them. And then they circled around me all singing and dancing. And I was like, what? These guys selected me to do this today when I don't have my camera? You know? Yeah. It's like, can I get your pager numbers, you guys, so I can get back with you tomorrow and get my camera? You know?
You just said pager numbers?
I was trying to slip that in there, it was of the time. It was 2001. And so they had cell phones, but in Europe they were, what would they call them in Europe? Mobiles?
Mobile.
Mobile. You got your mobile on you?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, fond nostalgia, and when I look back on it and I try to recut it and edit it differently, I always edit it with something else in mind because it's been 10 years. So, in many ways, it's this project I've been just letting lag for 10 years, but then when I go back to it, I feel like, hey, there's this reason that there was a decade in between actually producing and showing people what I did on that trip, you know?
And what a good showcase for it. Inside Sulphurbath, episode 11? 11?
We're on 11 now, yeah.
All right.
It's crazy to think, actually.
Thank you for letting me co-host for a little bit, spontaneously. I want to let the audience know that if you see me doing this a little bit, there's some music outside that's really providing a nice soundtrack to what's going on here.
I'm hoping that the people at home are like, what's going on? It sounds like they're right in the middle of where it's at, you know, because there's a courtyard out here, and there's a band, a DJ playing, and can I get that? And it's not particularly amazing my style, but it is something you can do this to,
right?
Which seems to be all it takes these days. And the global party culture is just like in the future, all music will just be a beat, and it'll just be like, oh, how many beats per minute, man? Oh, I love 122. It's the best, you know.
The band coming up will smash that.
Yes, exactly. We got some real punk rock in the house tonight. That's gonna be amazing.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Not much else is new. Played a show with Fumio and Nick last night at Mama Joy's. That was really awesome. Folk night at Mama Joy's. If any locals are out there watching us, from now on we're going to do folk music every Friday night at Mama Joy's, which is 1084 Flushing Ave. And you can find them on Facebook as well. But there was 4 bands. Ernest Hampton, I believe their band was called Natural Strangers played. They were really amazing, great band. Brandon White, who's a friend who's been on the show, he performed. He was really awesome. I played as Wage Workers with Nick Chen and Fumio Tashiro. And there was a gentleman named Brian that just was at the bar with a guitar. and happened to be like, "Can I play?" And we were like, "Hell yeah!" And turns out he's an amazing folk musician. Just happened to be sitting there with a guitar, so it turned into spontaneous
open mic.
Well, yeah, we were trying to lean it like, "Hey, this isn't an open mic, you know, but you're awesome enough that you're with us." So,
that sounds like a good groove. So how long
cool.
you're gonna do this Friday night folk thing for?
Yeah, I should
for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be indefinite, and I think there's a lot of great folk acts around Bushwick. Actually, it's really amazing. I personally know a number of people that would fit that bill really great. But Mama Joy's starting it as folk, but they have a nice little outdoor area there, and I think we're going to hope to get a lot more diversity of bands back there. It's very interesting because a lot of people don't know about Brooklyn, but if you'll be outdoors in a backyard of a bar somewhere, and above that bar is maybe 2 or 3 levels of people living. And then so we're in the backyard in this area, and everybody's, drinking and smoking and yucking it up, and we're playing live music. And we look up, and there's a bunch of little kids hanging out of their window, like looking down on us rock. And it's just a really great Brooklyn feeling of like, look at this, leaning out the window. And so there's a lot to be said about the problems and the complexities of gentrification. But at the same time, I see here in Brooklyn, basically all of the world living together and learning from each other different things, and a lot of that can be very positive, and so.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Very
there's
cool.
a great vibe here in Bushwick. Great, much to be appreciated, much to take advantage of, not take for granted. Make sure you're out there in the streets, out there in the bars, mixing it up. That's why I don't live in Bushwick.
Right.
Because if I did, I wouldn't get any work done.
Yeah.
Or if in certain neighborhoods in Brooklyn, it's too live, it's too outside what's happening.
Yeah.
And it would distract from my own writing and my own work that I need to do. So I live in a quieter neighborhood, and I make forays into this borough.
Believe me, I understand. I mean, you see my desk right here where I write, and then you hear what's coming from the window right here.
Yeah.
So that's not
But
a rare
visually,
occurrence.
it's a stunning landscape. Urban detritus mixed with high art graffiti.
Yeah.
So
It's a very polar place when you consider it that way. But something about it is, there's not many trees around and a whole lot of concrete. But the thing that I love too is just about everybody I know has some access to their roof here. And when you're down on the street in New York City, it's so chaotic, and you see the rats and you see the dirt and you see people yelling at each other. But you get up above on the roofs, and it's just so peaceful, and it's like you're looking out at a forest, and it's something special. It's a really cool feeling. New York, I feel like it offers you everything if you know how to find it,
That may be. Can we make that a transition into our first guest?
I think so. Yeah,
because
that is exactly
our first
right.
guest, Emmanuel Iduma, has come to New York for that very reason.
Awesome.
Or he thinks. So we'll see if he finds it here.
Cool. We'd like to welcome out Emmanuel Iduma.
Hi. Okay.
Hi, how you doing today?
Yeah,
No, that's
I'm
good.
well.
I think we're okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, just to put that in a little perspective, Shaun is just mentioning you came out here to New York for that reason, but you literally just came to New York, right?
Yeah.
And you flew in, what, yesterday? or?
Yesterday I arrived like 7 p.m. Was it 5? 7 p.m. I think. So yeah, lost track of time.
It was 7 p.m. somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how was your flight? You're literally just joining us. So.
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. Not amazing, but it was cool. it was okay. Yeah.
No, actually, flying is amazing.
Yeah,
People
right.
just think Emmanuel started out in Lagos, Nigeria, then went to Casablanca and New York City in 13 hours. That's amazing.
That's amazing, yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
And then I slept a lot, so.
That's good.
Yeah.
We wanted you rested for the show.
Yeah. I did. Yeah.
Cool. So when Shaun first suggested having you on, he set you up as being a writer, and I got on your webpage and I read some of your blogs, which kind of blew me away. And so we're going to share those with people at home because we would like people to be able to go to that and check it out.
Yeah.
So just real briefly, can you mention where people can go?
I have a site where I try to bring together all the writing I do, and all the projects. So it's Mr. Iduma. That's Mr. and then my surname, iduma.com. So it's kind of a website and a blog and blah blah blah. Yeah.
Cool. MrIduma.com.
Yeah.
Cool. We want
So,
people to be able to check that out.
Yeah.
So one of the blogs that I read on there that you wrote was about the journey. And something that you said that really got me was you were talking about getting ready to go on a journey and somehow unable to actually take that first step.
Yeah.
And you even said something about that I'm sitting in the room, the door is opened for me even, I'm not leaving. I'm not stepping through that door. And the energies and all these other ideas that come up with what is traveling and what is a journey. And when you wrote it that way, it seemed like more than that, what is being lucid of having a journey. And that really intrigued me. So can you talk about that piece a little bit, and furthermore your blog in general?
Oh yeah, I think the last 3 posts on my blog has been very very personal. In fact, the last one I wrote it about say 3-4 days before I came on this trip. And it's been a very kind of difficult and exciting journey to come to New York, because I got an admission last year to study at SVA, School of Visual Arts here.
Cool, congratulations.
Yeah. And then I deferred because of funds, and it's quite difficult to, come from Nigeria to New York. It's quite expensive, so to speak. So I had to defer for a year. And so when eventually this was coming together, I had a lot of thoughts run through my mind. It was a very hectic preparation period. And then I tried to articulate that in the last post on my blog, which is titled, I think, on leaving. And then when I wrote that, it was really how I felt. And because I've been writing these very short pieces, these very short essays, and people love it actually. They tell me it's quite exciting to read something very short and engaging at the same time.
Right.
And so you leave a lot of things open and unsaid, but yet we can feel that we've read the whole thing. So because it was very intense and very personal, I had to ask a group of friends, do you think it's okay to publish this? Because I try to draw the line between aggrandizement and modesty. I try to be modest in my writing. I try to be honest. And then because you have this thing of people feeling you are you are trying to show off, yet you're not trying to show off, you're trying to be honest. So all of those kind of thoughts about my personal experience, how I can reflect that very honestly, is what I've been trying to do on my blog and my writing generally.
Yeah, not only do I think that's a very honorable thing to do, but I think that's something that a lot of people are attracted to. Like we're so, it's chock full of like stories of mainstream things that are just generalizations of representations, and but what really gets me is when I am hearing an authentic voice of somebody directly, something personal. And the fact, one of the things we often have talked about here on the show is economic globalism versus cultural globalism, and actually sharing the stories of the people that live in different places in the world. So many people want to confine globalism to being like, oh, the companies are trading now. It's like, yeah, really, you think it ends there? In fact, that's the detrimental part. And to us, these voices, the specific voices of people around the world, is what we really want to hear. So yeah, that's very interesting. Do you where do you feel that you stand in your career right now? Is this a big jumping off point, moving to New York now?
Yeah, I think because for many reasons. First is the change of location. Of course, I've lived in many parts of Nigeria, by the way, and then moving to Lagos was, I left law school. I was done with studying, and I moved to Lagos because I felt, okay, let me go to Lagos. I need to start something new, and I didn't want to practice law, so I was going to Lagos to just be engaged with the arts. I got this fantastic opportunity to join an organization to travel by road across Africa, and then it was happening from Lagos, so I needed to be in Lagos, and then I wanted to start living in Lagos, and that's happened for the last 2-3 years. And then moving to New York is basically for school, and then to start writing on a quite different level, because I want to start writing about art, mostly photography. So in Lagos, in Nigeria, I've been doing a lot of fiction and kind of just reflective essays. So I think, it's definitely a big move for me in terms of my writing and in terms of just being in another part of the world. It's definitely exciting and also scary.
Why New York?
The way I think, I actually don't think of big moves until I've made it. So I found out about this program which I'm attending now. I'm going to start attending, and it was in New York. So I loved the program.
So New York is a coincidence.
I think it's a coincidence.
So it could have been Paris or Rome,
it could have been anywhere else.
It's
just what I'm, getting out of being in New York now. That is the most exciting. And of course, when I got the admission and had the opportunity to move, I started to think on a very different level. I started, just recently, I started reading a lot about graffiti and I know New York is kind of the graffiti capital of the world, maybe. Yeah, and so many things started coming together. But originally, it wasn't like I wanted to move to New York. I actually didn't want to move anywhere. I just wanted to live my life. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And can I ask how you guys met? I know you've contributed to the Mantle and such. Now, how did you guys meet?
If my memory serves correctly, I published another Nigerian writer, Tolu Ogunlesi, like 3-4 years ago now. And Tolu, shortly after he published that essay on the role of the writer in a conflict zone, he soon after won a major African journalism award, like CNN Journalist of the Year or something like that.
Yeah.
And so you were following Tolu on Twitter, or you know him personally, and traced his writing back to the Mantle.
Exactly, yeah.
And then emailed me or tweeted me or something.
Yeah. I don't think you were using Twitter at that time.
Oh.
It's like 2011. Yeah.
So that's about the basic story, right?
Yeah, that
so
is it, yeah.
Emmanuel ended up reaching out to me via another Nigerian writer that I had published previous to that.
Okay.
And suggested writing about the African or the writing scene in Africa, and especially around emerging writers, young writers in Africa. And so he was blogging for us, and a happy relationship blossomed. How long have you been writing?
Like September 2011, so that's about almost 2 years.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
2 years, basically.
So we met for the first time in person yesterday at JFK.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
and it seems like we've known each other for a longer time.
Yeah, there was a relationship in the building, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty natural. Yeah,
Very cool.
It's nice. Can I ask about...
yeah, please.
I wanted to ask about your travels across Africa, because you've done some traveling around Cameroon, Gabon, and the coastal countries around there, and then shooting east across the continent. Chad, did you go to Chad?
Yeah,
Chad, Sudan, and Ethiopia.
Yeah.
So I've never been to Africa, and we certainly have stereotypical ideas or myths of what Africa is like. Right?
Yeah, sure.
It comes from the movies, and it comes from the few African literature that we can actually read. But I was wondering if you saw something common about the continent in those different countries that is so-called African, or if they are so different between, Ghana and Ethiopia, that we really should start considering segregating and, breaking apart this continental mythology.
Yeah, I think Africa is a very convenient way to talk about a very diverse and very complicated place. So first of all, before I started traveling, I was very open to the idea that Africa is not one thing, and traveling now confirmed that, because you basically share a lot of things. You share the hustle, the boss. Africa is a very bustling place, like very, in terms of infrastructure, very disorganized. That's kind of a common thread. Yet you see subtleties that differentiate these different countries. For instance, you go to Gabon, and apart from the language thing, which is in Gabon, it's Francophone. So someone like me finds it very difficult to, come trying to get a taxi for 45 minutes. I had to call my friends and ask them to come with a car and then pick me up. So it can get that you feel very alienated in some places, and yet in some other places, because of a lot of shared stuff, you feel very keen. You feel like you are in Nigeria. A different form of Nigeria, a different place in Nigeria. For instance, I was in Ghana a couple of weeks ago, and Ghana is this very Nigerian. It's kind of a Nigerian extension. I don't know if the Ghanaians would like this,
burn.
But and then of course Nigeria is. I don't know. I don't say Nigeria is a It's a Ghana extension, but in Ghana, for instance, we have, like, our musicians collaborate a lot. We eat almost the same food, and then there is this kind of mutual, it's just very, very, together kind of being in Ghana. But then you go to places like Ethiopia and you feel I'm new here, and so it's kind of very.
Where did you feel the most new?
I think in Sudan, because Sudan is Arabic. The culture is very different from being in Nigeria. But then again, you feel very welcome. But you're a stranger. You have a short time to stay, so you're just kind of a tourist, and you try not to be a tourist. And then for the kind of travels that we did, it was kind of an art intervention. So I was traveling with photographers. Most times I was the only writer. And then we had filmmakers too. And so we travel by road, we make stops, sometimes we sleep in the van. It was very, very interesting experience. And it was, now you don't have official protection. You have to go through the borders by road, and they are very difficult. Sometimes we were almost going to sleep in the border. I remember traveling when we were coming back to Lagos, and between Sudan and Ethiopia, they said we couldn't come in. We couldn't get in, and we had been stamped out of Ethiopia. We were kind of in no man's land between
like
Sudan
stuck
and Ethiopia.
on the border, really?
Stuck
Yeah.
in the border.
Wow.
So the only saving grace we had was that we had made friends with the Nigerian ambassador in Ethiopia. And so he had to now pull all the strings, and that was how we got out. If we didn't know that guy, it probably would be, I don't know what would have happened. So it was a very, very intense experience where you are meeting, you're meeting on the very basic, you're meeting people on the very basic level. There are no pretensions. People don't understand what you're doing. What are you doing with these cameras? And, who are you guys? Why do you, you have all these passports that said you've been to most of us were either living in diaspora, so you really had very good credentials. And then what are you doing stuck in the border? How are you guys here? People didn't really get the idea of art, and being photographers, being writers. What are you doing here? And especially because you're traveling by road, why didn't you just fly into the country? And so it was a very ambitious and intense experience too. So and one other thing was that we spent very short time in those cities. So it's a different thing if you spent like months in one place. The kind of experience I got was that of being a visitor. So I knew that I had 5 days to stay in this city. I had 10 days at most to stay in this country. So that would definitely be a different kind of experience. If I had, say, a month, say I had like more time, so I couldn't do any research on the country. I couldn't go to all the touristical places. I only had to just deal with people on a one-on-one level. And I think that's like what made those trips very exciting and very different for me. Yeah, kind of all over the place, but yeah. Yeah.
But and possibly more real of an experience than what you would think of as a tourist traveling through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because for us, the tourist, we try to, avoid the whole touristical appeal to those countries. So when we went to Sudan, we just had to go to the market, because I think the markets are one of the best places to visit and get a feel of what a city is like. And then we didn't even go to art galleries. We were supposed to be artists and go to the places where art happens. But we have this, the group I belong to, we have this very radical approach to art. We believe in public art. We believe in, like art on the spur of the moment. For instance, the project we just finished in Accra, which is the most recent, we did an open space exhibition in one of the downtown neighborhoods in Accra, which is kind of in between a slum and an urban area. So we did, in a roundabout, we did like an exhibition where people just see photos, and people were like, what is this? I've never seen this in my entire life. Our plan was to use a billboard and put a photo, so instead of advertising, you see a documentary photo, whatever.
Oh,
You
cool.
see something like completely messing up with your idea of what can happen in public space and what art can do in the public space, and you begin to feel more engaged with it, like, than if you were seeing something else, seeing advertising or going to a gallery to view the new photographers and blah blah blah. So yeah, I think dealing with Africa in that sense, on that level, was very different from, say, dealing with Africa as, doing a different kind of project that involves traveling by air, or doing the normal way art is being projected on the continent. Yeah.
And if I could be so bold as to ask, I have my good friends Travis and Carr, who hopefully are watching tonight. They just took a long road trip across the United States, and talking to them about that. And do you feel like when we here are doing a road trip like that, is it like, okay, this is my home, but now I'm seeing my home? And I remember very specifically getting outside of California and being like, oh, I thought that this was one cohesive place, just like what you were mentioning. And so did you feel like that? Is you're discovering your own home, but it's different than what you were thinking of before?
Yeah. I think that, if you live in a part of Africa, especially if you live in a country like Nigeria, which is called the big brother of Africa, you feel you have a sense of kinship to other parts of the continent. So yeah, when you travel, for instance, when we travel, one of the rules we say to ourselves is don't give bribes. Because bribery is very rampant across the borders. So you want to deal with the guys who are, the officers, the customs guy, on a very human level. And one of the selling points has been, we are Africans like you. Everybody understands that language. So yeah, there's some form of homely feeling that, I didn't know. This has been in front of me all the while, and I never experienced it on this level. So yeah, I think I had that feeling too. Yeah, but you feel like, I want to reach out. I want to reach out for more. It's just like meeting your brother who you never met as a kid, and meeting him when he's grown up. And you start sharing stories, and you realize that, I could have known this. I should have known this guy all my life. Right. So that was a feeling exactly I had sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great, amazing connection. And there's two things you're making me think of. There's, first of all, like, where does family end?
Exactly.
Does it end with my stepdad? Does it end with his wife? Or well, that would be my mom, right? But anyway, so how far do you want to take your family? Does it end with your brother's wife and all of that? So you make me think of that, but also the idea that that as you travel, that you're coming across family everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And that's super powerful thing to do.
Yeah. I think that's even, I don't know, but that's kind of validates I don't know if it validates the assumption that people have about Africa, but I think, there's some very powerful connection that happens even when you meet someone from Egypt, or from North Africa. I remember being at a conference, and I was paired with a guy from Egypt, and it was like the most logical thing to do, for them, but also for us. It was like connecting on a very, we connected easily because we had shared struggles, and you can basically relate on a very experiential manner. You guys share the same whatever. Egypt is this large country going through all this stuff. Nigeria is going through its own stuff, and you guys can connect on a political level, on a social level, probably on every level, literally.
And I think a lot of those assumptions exist because there's not an alternative to get real knowledge about what's going on there, right? People jump to assumptions because they don't have some way of really seeing what's going on, which is why it's so great to be sitting here talking with you about this personal experience that you're having. You mentioned something else. Can I ask you, why is Nigeria called the big brother of Africa?
I think it's first of all the population.
Oh, is it?
Like
okay.
160 million. So and they say 1 in every 5 black persons is in Nigeria.
Oh, okay.
So it's, of course, it's the population, and you go to all these countries and they are Nigerian restaurants. They are like Nigerian settlements. It never happens like that in Nigeria. Shaun was asking me yesterday or so, or this morning, if people from other parts of Africa settle in Nigeria, and I found it hard to think about. Like, I never thought of it that way. But when I go to all these other countries, I find Nigerian settlements in Chad, which is one of the poorest countries, of course, in that sense. And you find a Nigerian who is doing business, thriving in Chad, and you even go to Ethiopia, which is kind of far out, and you still find Nigerian settlements, and it's kind of amazing. And you're wondering, how did these guys get there? And what's even more interesting for Nigeria being called the Big Brother of Africa is also, I think, there's Nollywood. Nollywood is kind of our film industry. And I was in Ethiopia, I think it was Ethiopia, and I found like posters of Nigerian films. And I'm like, oh my God. And so all over the continent, Nigerian, or all over English-speaking Africa, Nigerian, even in Gabon, even in Cameroon, Nigerian film stars are like demigods.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of our population and also the energy that comes with being Nigerian and the controversies that come with being Nigerian and everything. So yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned in a conversation we had earlier that Nigerians are both loved and hated around the continent.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking when you're talking about you can go everywhere and you can see Nigerians, I think about the Nigerians who are leading the way with economic trade with China. There's places you can go in southern China where it's just Nigerians are establishing villages and running trade back and forth between continent and China, and how much maybe Nigeria and the United States has in common in terms of being a cultural ambassador for a certain culture or ethnic representation, whatever it is. You've got Nollywood, we have Hollywood. We're loved around the world, we're hated around the world. We're in China, we're not in China. One place we're not is in Africa, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean,
we're losing to the Chinese.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, of course, for many reasons. The American-Nigerian, what is it again? The comparison, I think it's very useful as a way to understand, for instance, what role Nigeria is playing in, the world and our influence. But then again, I think it's quite different because America is a very it's more of a superpower. I mean, more of a direct superpower than Nigeria. So in Africa, for instance, we have all this potential, but sometimes it seems we are kind of shooting ourselves on both legs, and politics is, messed up. I mean, politics is messed up everywhere, but in Nigeria, sometimes it's quite unbelievable the things our politicians say. Not even do. Doing is, every politician does crappy stuff. But the things our politicians say in Nigeria, like, okay, But yeah.
What did I interrupt? You were gonna.
Oh, that's gone now. I don't know. Do you have any examples of specific examples of the politicians saying something? That strikes a chord with us here, at least me, because I'm used to throwing everything a politician says out the window.
Yeah.
But you mean in the sense of like making promises, or just in the sense of?
I think in responses. For instance, in Nigeria, there's this, in the northern part of Nigeria, there's this this Islamic terrorist group, called Boko Haram, and for instance, one day, they just had a major bombing, something killed some people in churches and all of that, and the president comes out and says, we know the people who are responsible for this, and we're going to get them. I'm like, even if you knew the people responsible for this, he said, we know the people who are responsible for this, and they're in our government.
Oh.
I was like, how do you say this? Like, and you knew them, they're in your government, and you come out. So many dumb stuff. Yeah, it's just unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, I think the thought that it recurs to me now that I was going to mention before is how much reach art and music has, basically. I could list, there's a series called the Ethio Peaks. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's become so famous here amongst people that look for good music. And there's these great singers that are a part of this series that are all musicians and singers from Africa, all in different places. But the series is called Ethio Peaks. One of them that I'm really a huge fan of is Mahmoud Ahmed. There's a sax player named Alamiyehu Eshete. I can, rattle off a bunch of names like that, from Fela Kuti to the guys that are on this. Fela Kuti's sons we were just talking about earlier. and the reach of the art that comes from these places. And we're talking about assumptions about Africa a little while ago, but I think when people go out looking, they can find this amazing art in music. I have this collection. It's literally my favorite, probably the most played thing I have. It's called the Indestructible Beat of Soweto. And it's this collection of musicians in Soweto, and it just knocks me down every time I hear it. And so I want to kind of bring this into the conversation about you coming here to New York.
Yeah.
And in some sense, you're talking about personal and biographical writing, but you're also talking about fiction, and you're also talking about creative work. And so here you are, and now we know of you, and we're being enlightened about this.
Yeah.
And so in some sense, it's this reach of art that has even brought you to us. Yeah. And this is kind of the thing that I really want, and all of our collaborators really here at the show want, is we know a lot of great artists, we know a lot of great musicians, but what's substantial beyond that, beyond, like I think I mentioned earlier, like who's got the best selling this or the most creative that. And to me, it's more about this idea of cooperation and this community of educating each other through art and shining light on those areas that we don't quite know about. And it's a great honor to have you here, straight off, flying into New York City to come on the show.
Exciting.
You got the exclusive.
Yeah, really, quite an exclusive.
It is American introduction, or what do you call it?
Exactly. Yeah, this is
first run.
Yeah. And is there something as far as the people that might be watching the archive, and even for ourselves here in the studio, is there something that you would want to clue us into? Like, is there to understand more besides just going in? Well, obviously, we're going to check out your blog and everything. Do you have any other resources that you might want to share with us, just in general, as like here we are in America, here in New York City, and we're curious about some of this stuff, but. A lot of the times I try to dig up information about what's going on in other places in the world, and we have the mainstream media here, or we have a complete, hornet's nest of stuff to dig through. So do you, if I were to ask you, where can I get some good information that's progressive, that's not mainstream, that's out of Nigeria and different places about in Africa?
I mean, like I can think of literary journals for a start. There's this very, very interesting journal called Chimurenga. It's published in South Africa. I mean, the guy who founded it is called Ntoni Njabe, and he's a DJ, so you can get a sense of his sensibilities. So he started this Chimurenga in 2002, and it's become one of the most important literary arts cultural journals being published on the continent at the moment. It's very off the mainstream. It's very kind of progressive. They just have they do all these side projects alongside. So the most recent stuff they have is called the Chimurenga Chronic, which is published quarterly, and it ranges from politics to every kind of stuff, but cool. Written in a very refreshing and alternative manner, if you please. And then there's also Kwani. Kwani is was founded by one of the Kane Prize. Kane Prize is called the African Booker for whatever reason, but the Kane Prize is one of the biggest literary prizes on the continent. So this guy who won in 2002, Biavanga Wainaina, is quite famous also. He founded Kwani, and it's also a very progressive journal. They don't have much content online. I hope that changes soon. But Chimurenga has a lot of content online. And then, of course, I'll talk about the journal I started with a friend, Saraba, which is actually people write about the progressive journals in Africa and mention these three. So it's just good to cool. kind of being immodest and blowing my trumpet. But yeah, I mean, Saraba is we just did our 14th issue, which is published as PDF and available for free. No adverts, no grants. Of course, you don't get grants in Nigeria. But so we've been doing very publishing emerging writers and kind of just focusing on literary content. We don't do political stuff. What do I talk about again? They're just so, I think that when you get hooked to these platforms, you can now start reaching out to other platforms that have the same kind of subtleties and sensibilities and all of that. Yeah, so let me think. There are all kinds of stuff, but maybe it's not coming to my head.
Yeah, that's good to know. The Seraba, what's the actual web presence for that? Is there a web address?
Yeah, sarabamag.com.
Serabama?
SARABA mag.com.
Okay.
So
like MAC? Mag?
What?
MAG.
MAG. Seraba Mag. Okay,
yeah, mag,
gotcha.
yeah. So yeah. Yeah, and then of course we're talking about the music that is coming out of Africa at the moment, or Nigeria. I can talk about Nigerian music. It's kind of a very big wave now. There are all these big music stars, but then you have some alternative guys, you know, doing some off the mainstream thing, and it's quite exciting because, you know, you try to listen for a different sound when you hear all the same beats and same lyrical content, but then you hear these guys who are doing some different stuff, doing some soul. There's Neka, there are all these people, but I think it's something also to look out for when you're thinking of Nigerian alternative stuff. You look at the music.
Take advantage of that.
So my question was what the African hip hop scene, and like just saying African goes to show you like what I know about Africa as a continent. You know what I mean? It's like that's a huge generalization because then, you know, hip hop is a huge generalization. So it's just like I want to know because like I went to Louisiana for the first time and I tried to be objective down there, but everyone looks like me, so it was impossible to be objective. And this was 5 years after Katrina. I wanted to know what the southern hip hop scene was looking like outside of the media, you know what I mean? Because I feel like hip hop isn't music, it's culture. So like, and it transcends continents, people, and all that stuff. So like, anytime I'm in a room with someone who has a different foresight into what I know connects the world, which is hip hop, I just want to know like, what are the MCs out there saying? You know what I mean? Like, what's like the main topic of the underground scene? You know? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, you know, what the underground vibes are. But I think I listen to some very, I don't know, hip-hop is of course a generalization as you said, but I would like to say alternative hip-hop guys. So recently I got hold of, there's this guy, Manifest. I'll probably just tell you guys to sample, who are really saying very, sometimes even prophetic stuff about where the continent is headed. I mean, their fight with the diaspora. Manifest is actually a very cool guy. He's from Ghana and then he moved to the US, and you could hear all this, you know, complex stuff. You know, you know, very very confused stuff in his voice. Very you know, interesting to listen to him. And then there's this guy, Blitz, the ambassador. I think he played recently in Los Angeles or something. I saw a friend tweet. I mean, so the guy, this guy is from Ghana.
Follow-up question. What are like big U.S. or even like Caribbean musicians? What are the big U.S. hip-hop stars? Like who's transcended that? Who's like, has Jay-Z made it to the African radios? Like, are you listening to French Montana or like Meek Mills or like, you know, I don't know. It's like I feel like the way these guys talk about their street cred globally, you would think that Rick Ross is like got posters in Ghana. You know what I mean? Yeah, I
mean, these guys are quite big. I mean, I remember hearing about, I mean, I don't listen to these guys, but I remember hearing about the Rick Ross show in Lagos and how it cost, I can't remember, I mean, it cost $1 million naira, which is about
700 grand.
Yes, exactly. About a little below $10,000, you know, like.
Way under that. I said 700 grand.
Oh yeah, okay.
10 G's. Wow.
I mean, so you could not a ticket, but a table or something. Very crazy amount. And I'm like, who's Rick Ross? You know. But these guys are quite big in Nigeria. I mean, I think it's just the fact that the US is kind of a global outlet for a lot of things.
Yeah, that's interesting to comment on that because it's a two-way thing, right? We were just talking about what influences of musical from Africa here, but to wonder what's going on there. You said something about Nas is very popular there. Yeah. And I think I was randomly in.
Just to hear that Nas, the truest lyricist, I feel like, and a lot of people can say Nas is like the truest lyricist, pure lyricist.
I mean, there's this big album. I mean, one of my favorite hip-hop albums is the one he did with Damian Marley. That's like, I mean, and of course they're singing about, although I disagree to many things that talked about, but I mean, it's a very, very good
Distant Relatives.
Distant Relatives, and then they have this track with Kanan. Kanan is like, I mean, I was talking to Shaun. Shaun has, and I'm like, Kanan, you know Kanan. Kanan is like, I think he's out of Africa is probably one of the biggest. I don't like to use the word exports, but he's quite. I think a lot more people should listen to Kanan and what he talks about his African heritage and how that affects his participation in the global scheme of things. Yeah.
My whole understanding of like music comes from like this shade of black and white in America.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like hip hop has always been a black cultural thing in America that's reached into like mainstream. You know what I mean? Like when Eminem, who's probably like one of the best rappers to ever rap now. You know what I mean? Like it's crossed so many borders. So whenever I like try to hear what the international story of hip hop is, because like it started in the Bronx. And it was never supposed to leave the Bronx, and now it's universal. You know what I mean? So like people try to discredit it or try to say that it mongers like this thug life or this gangster culture, but it's also like there's a lot of gangster shit happening across the world right now. Where business suits and fast cars and billion-dollar budgets are involved, and we're not talking about movies. We're talking about banks and hospitals and stuff
military
like that.
coups.
Right.
You know what I mean, like, and if those guys, like, if more, these banks, if they were spitting rhymes, we would probably be tuning in to hear what the hell they're saying. You know
Exactly.
But
I mean, it's quite interesting because for someone like, there's a guy called MI in Nigeria. He has a very huge fan base. He's one of the things that has endeared him to a lot of Nigerian, and I was talking to this group from Kenya. We met outside the continent, and then we were talking about. I asked them, "Who is your favorite Nigerian guy?" And they said MI. And their beats is very different from MI's beat. But I was quite. So one of the things that's gotten MI that famous is that he has this mix of very commercial music with the alternative stuff. So he has about. He has
commercial African hip hop. That's like that's blowing my mind.
It's very. I think commercial hip hop.
As a genre, like you could commercialize like anything you play African artist related or from anywhere. If you play it over here, it's automatically alternative. There's you know what I mean. You can't commercialize something that nobody can understand or like explain.
And that's the point because his own. His stuff is very kind of dissing people. Right. Of course. And then he does he does two projects on the side. He does a very extreme kind of stuff that nobody, he's not singing about women, he's singing about some very deep stuff. Right. And then he's doing this one where he's singing about normal stuff. You are, my car is better than yours, I wear better, And then, so that kind of, I could give you everything. Right. So he's singing all this stuff, and people are like, okay, you do this very commercial stuff, and you do this very alternative stuff. Where are you? And they can't,
Hip hop exists as a contradiction. It's hip and hop. You still can't define them separately. So it's just good to get a voice that's like akin, tuned into something that I probably will be years away from hearing or experiencing.
Yeah, and so much I think about a lot of those musicians is the fact that they play the commercial thing to get in there, and then their voice is heard, and then slowly feeding in, this is really what I want to say. Yeah. And sometimes it's almost like a built-in code into the rhymes.
That's what Kanan said about his most recent album, was that he had to commercialize I'll say dumb down his lyrics to speak to the audience that was buying his albums in the United States, which was a lot of teenagers, so that he could make enough money to do what he really wanted to do on the next album.
Yeah. And so for someone like MI, who I'm talking about, for me, I'm his fan, and then I just get tired of his very, in quote, shitty stuff. And and I'm asking, how long does it take you to move to how much money do you want to make? This guy is on the billboards in Nigeria now. He's doing all these big collaborations. He's on the
and a lot of times it changes as they go. They start.
So how much money do you need? How much cars do you want to buy? How much comfort do you want to buy before you can start doing you find your true voice or whatever that is.
For me, some of the best hip hop that's ever come out has always been when it's been an artist who's known for both, and then they make that album where it's like, damn, I realized that I'm living life as a contradiction. You know what I mean? Like Common, Basement Evolution. That whole album was basically like, I can make another album and it could be about everything I bought off of money from the album I made before this one.
Yeah.
Or I could talk about all the people who came to me and were like, you've changed.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
Yeah.
Kanye West had that album. Jay-Z's made that album a billion times. You know what I mean? It's like all of those contradictions that make hip hop so poignant and like so like some people are on the edge or on the fence with it, because I know people who don't even listen to hip hop for the lyrics, who are solely into it for the beat. You know what I mean? And they're like, you're missing 50% of a track if you only hear the beat. You know what I mean? Even if it's a track about girls shaking their asses, if you're not listening to those lyrics, you're not even understanding why that person wrote that track. You know? So
I think it's where we are, for instance, in the Nigerian music industry. So people are people are getting fed up with just singing about the same thing. So you watch music videos in Nigeria, or even the ones you watch from the US, and all you see are women and models and all of that.
Party, like I've never been to a party with that many people, like for real. I've been to some cool parties.
Well, you're gonna hang out with me more, Dean. I don't know what you're doing. No, I don't want to break this up. I feel like we should have a whole other segment where we're talking about this, but just to keep moving on. Yeah, sorry, I want to bring it back to your writing, because we got to wrap it up in a little bit so we can bring out the other artist. So, and just as an end note to that, I'm glad you brought that up, Dean, because that was a really cool aside, I feel. Yeah. And I challenge people at home to look up Manifest and MI and see what we're talking about.
Exactly.
And I know I will as soon as the show's over. But yeah, so where you stand now, we talked about your blog a little bit, but you've just published a book too as well, right? Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, my book came out about this time last year, July, thereabouts last year. It's called Farad. And for many people in Nigeria, which is where it was published, it's very experimental. Although I mean, I didn't know what that meant when I was trying to put it together. But the book is kind of a short story collection and then a novel at the same time, because you have about 7 chapters with separate stories, and then the second part of each chapter are the stories now coming together, where you have the same setting and the same circumstance that all the major characters are now playing or acting, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's very, for many people, they hadn't read a book like that, you know, especially in the Nigerian setting, where you know, you just have this rush of things in your head, rush of circumstances, and not even characters. So it's been, I mean, I think it's been received well. I had literally no ambition when I was writing the book. You know, I just wanted to get something out, and then incidentally my publishers liked it, and then they decided to give it a go, and it's been received well. I've had a lot of good reviews in Nigeria.
That sounds amazing. I have a lot of good friends that are very much into experimental fiction and nonfiction. Okay. Is this something we can get our hands on now?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. Yeah,
great.
So I think.
And what's it called again?
It's Farad. It's called Farad.
Farad.
Farad is from. I mean, I just did crazy stuff for the book. The title is, of course, from Michael Faraday. Farad is the unit of measuring electrical capacitance, and then of course I took that to capacitance to mean something very. Very metaphoric, you know, like not, you know, capacitance as how much can we take as human beings, you know, how much tragedy, how much grief. So the book is very sad. I hear people say, I mean, people tell me this book is very sad, but I don't know why. I just keep reading it. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of sadness that hovers around the human life or something, you know.
I think that's a very powerful metaphor, the metaphor of electricity and capacitance.
Exactly.
Really understanding how electricity works is blown my mind. But, you know, capacity, the metaphor that I've always been given to try to understand electricity is like a water hose, and the size of the hose itself, the flow of the water, and how much water is going through there.
Yeah.
And you're talking about capacitance, it's what's the limit? And the pressure that will come out, and that's basically a direct correlation between the energy that is produced, right? So you're saying, it's very interesting to me. You're talking about, a lot of people are commenting on this as a sad book, but it's like that sadness and the energy it creates, right? So I look forward to reading it.
Yeah, I think it's an essential sadness. You know, I think
essential sadness. Yeah,
it's kind of
that's deep.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote the book from a very deep place of questioning. You know, I was just questioning all this stuff about essence, and, you know, why do we have people who are born with disabilities, you know? Because, I mean, in my family, I had a couple of people who were Down syndrome, for instance. Like, it didn't make sense to me, and I tried to question that. I tried to question essence. I tried to question, and so those were the kind of thoughts I had in my head, you know. And so I didn't intend to write anything that would come out sad or come out happy. All of that was just in between. And so all of the stories have, of course, the potential to be read as, a book about love, a book about family, and then I also sampled some very autobiographical stuff. So people ask, is that you in the story? I say, yeah, I wanted to sample that experience of my life, but give it a very fictional twist,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
Well, that sounds amazing. I look forward to reading it.
I hope so.
It's, for some reason, you're reminding me of do you know Rumi, the poet Rumi?
No. Yeah, I've heard of him, but I've not read
semi-ancient. Yeah, there's one quote that's kind of passed around a lot amongst fans of Rumi, but he says, sorrow is an expression of joy.
Mm.
And to be alive, just simply the act of being alive is to be in rapture.
Yeah.
And so, like, everything that we do is kind of basically living with how much energy is behind being like a live, sentient human being. Yeah, we mentioned that last week. So you reminded me of that, and so that kind of sadness that it's seeing the other side of the joy about being alive or something.
Exactly.
And I don't want to take it out of context or misquote it because I haven't read it.
Yeah.
But it sounds amazing, and I wish you all the best luck and success with it, man.
Thank you.
Sounds
great.
great.
I moved on actually.
Okay. What are you working on now? Are you working on that?
I'm working on a novel. I've been kind of since the beginning of this year. I've been trying to. I've not gotten past. It's crazy to write a second book. It's you have to get your mind off a lot of things, and just focus. And for me, my writing is focused on, like, I want to be very honest with myself. So a lot of people fight with me about the idea that I tell them I write for myself, because there's a lot of self in my writing, as you also noticed from my blog. But I don't want to. I want to write for myself first before I start thinking about others. And it's their own business to come into the writing in whatever way. It's just like a painter. It's just like a photographer never thinks. Well, I don't know, but a true photographer doesn't think about how this image would be sold or whatever. He just thinks about what he sees and how to capture what he sees, and true to his own convictions and all of that. So yeah, that's the kind of ideas I have when I'm writing. So I have to get past the notions of being, for instance, an African writer. What it means to write in Africa. I have to get past all those notions and get into a place where it's just me and the blank page. Yeah.
Wow, that's deep. That's so basic. It seems to me like fundamental human right there. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Emmanuel Iduma, so good to talk to you. Am I missing anything, Shaun? Should we?
No, we could do another hour.
I think we could. Yeah, come back. I wish you all the success now that you're here, and I know you're going to be around at least a year, right?
Yeah.
So sometime in that year, please come back and talk to us again.
Definitely.
We'll check in.
Thank you.
Emmanuel, thank you so much.
Yeah,
very cool. Yeah. Emmanuel Iduma. We're going to put on the archive, we're going to put the web pages of Emmanuel's up, and I really encourage everybody to go out and check it out. It sounds like it's some amazing stuff. I really look forward to reading Farad. Very cool.
Yeah,
thank you, Shaun.
He's staying in my house, so I have days and days of these kinds of conversations ahead of me.
Yeah, cool.
So
excellent.
It's a lot to look forward, but I'm going on vacation next week, and I think I'll need it.
Right. Yeah. Just to filter and process all of it. Yeah.
From all of it.
Where are you going?
Seattle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You've been there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like Seattle a lot.
My best bud lives out there. Haven't been out there in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Check out the scene. It's all been gentrified since I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Everything looks like Greenpoint now.
But you can still buy marijuana pipes at Pike Street Market, I bet.
We can smoke it. They've made marijuana legal in the state of Washington.
That's how long I'm
So recently,
not from. That's so long I've not been there.
Hempfest. What was it? Last week, they had Hempfest, and the policemen were handing out bags of Doritos.
No kidding. That's what? What's the significance of that? What were they trying to say? Just live long and munchy?
Yeah, I'm not gonna. It's better than handing out batons, wax or something. I don't know, plastic strip.
But it's like a free
cups.
Doritos commercial, though, right? Doritos has been sitting and waiting for legalization for decades.
I see what you're saying now. Like Doritos is the stoner food.
Yeah, it is. Like I remember very specific college story. My roommate Trevor was his name, and long story short, his mom worked for the school, and he just didn't give a crap about being at school. But we would go and jump in my car and go get food once in a while. I remember being a little inebriated one day and sitting outside of a Taco Bell, and he had just run inside to a store and got some foods, and he's like munching on this bag of Doritos and just the cheese everywhere. And he looked at me, he was like, Doritos are the best food. And it was so funny to me because he backed it up. He was like, that is after French fries. And then that was the moment I realized I know what the number 1 and number 2 stoner foods in the world are. It's French fries and Doritos, definitely.
He's thought about that. I feel like we're on a Wikipedia page right now and we hit the random article button.
Right?
You know, we went from Legos to Doritos.
To Doritos.
What's next?
Next, we're going to jump into some art, I think.
Do it.
Awesome. So, again, thanks for connecting us, Shaun. I think it's really serendipity. When Emmanuel first got here, I said, when I first met Shaun and we were doing the show, I thought it was like this serendipity happening because it was right when we needed to meet him. And Emmanuel said, oh, that's the same word that Shaun used. And so I thought, oh, how cool is that we're on the same page? And I think that's pretty awesome.
Good to hear. Yeah, I love this page. So
yes.
Let's not turn it.
It's a good page. Right. Exactly.
It's just like make Jack Kerouac on the road scroll.
Yeah, just a scroll. Exactly, yeah. Or you could just frame the whole book open to that page, and then that would do the same thing. Now the scroll's better, but... Cool. So for our artist segment, we're gonna first of all, I'd like to bring Blaine out. We've got Blaine as a co-host that was not able to be with us. So
I'm gonna tag
thus
out.
far. Are you?
And
the literal tag?
No, I can tag him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh man, shit. Oh, we didn't catch that at home, but that was awesome. Thank you so much, Shaun Randol. I want everybody at home. At the end of every one of our shows, you should go to the mantlethought.org. And check out the different articles that are happening there. And check out on the archive. We're going to have Emmanuel's web pages and everything up there, too. So, Blaine Kneece, how you doing, man?
Hi, I'm great.
Yeah, cool. You're straight from work, too, right?
Yeah, just getting here. Had the late shift, you know.
Mm-hmm. I know what that's about.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure being here halfway through. I'm ashamed to have missed the first part of it. I can't wait to watch it in the archives because it sounded interesting. I caught the end of it.
Cool.
And I was just like, oh, wish I was out there.
Yeah.
Wish I was listening. Wish I was, you know. But
you'll definitely, hopefully, definitely probably be around for the next one when we have Emmanuel back.
Most possibly, yes.
Most impossibly, definitely.
There's a chance.
So, and I just saw Fumio creep into the room, too. Looks like everybody's just getting back from work and they're coming straight to the show. That's really awesome, man.
It's the creeping hour.
Yeah. So, dude.
What?
Did you hear who's on the show tonight?
Yeah. I got the email.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Everybody got an email because we started using a newsletter thing. Yeah, that's really cool. Oh, dude. But you didn't see them set up earlier.
No.
So, we got a band tonight called Dead Sexy Sheila. Our friend Troy Odell.
Excellent.
Our artist segment tonight is Clark Carr. We're going to bring Clark out here in a minute.
Yeah.
But Clark was talking to us about the musicians. He was like, hey, I know these guys. This is who you got to have on the show.
Yep.
I was like, okay, so hook it up. Brought them over. They did a sound check earlier. As soon as they started rocking, Miho and I looked at each other like, oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
So everybody stick around. We're going to have some amazing punk rock and roll coming up in a bit.
Can't wait.
And I'm already a huge fan of theirs. I think all the musicians we've had on the show so far, I'm genuinely an awesome fan of.
Yeah. And each kept better, different. It's all that.
Yeah. And just the range, right? You know, we had Cleve Douglas.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Streets of Laredo was amazing.
I know. That's just pretty crazy.
I still have people coming up to me asking about Streets of Laredo, man. Like, how do we get in touch with those? How do we book those guys? And where's their album?
No, they turned it out. Did a great job.
Yeah.
I listen to it often now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that's they're a great example of one of those bands that you're like, okay, I don't know if you guys are even aware of this, but it's only a matter of time. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't get frustrated with all the bullshit that comes many bands' ways as they try to make stuff.
Sure, we all get frustrated by that bullshit.
Yeah, right.
Time to time.
So, but cool. I want to bring Clark out here in a minute. Is Clark here still? So, we're gonna share some paintings of Clark's. Clark's a good friend and associate. Is he there?
That's
Clark. That's him. That's him there.
Get the Ouija board out.
Right.
Clark, are you here?
Hey, listen, I stole these beers out of your refrigerator. I was wondering if you guys want one.
Sure.
That's called found art.
Found art. I love the detail of it and everything. It's just how it stands there.
It looks so real.
Would you like one, Blaine?
Wow. If it was a toilet, I'd sign it. It'd be more Show. So there you go.
All right. So, cool. Right. Yeah, so, Clark, you've joined us as audience on a couple shows. You were here showing your work for BOS last month.
Yes.
2 months ago. You had a lot of really great reaction to your work, and I'm a personal fan, and I'm really pleased that you're on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I've been listening to a lot of your shows. I think they're great. You guys have had some great artists on. I really got to be honest with you, I thought Emmanuel's story was amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to follow that.
Well, don't sell yourself short.
Right. Yeah,
he's dealing with countries, I'm dealing with boroughs. It's a different thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're still parallel streams, I think. There's the thinker and the thinker in society. And the more it seems about society changing, that thinkers aren't really promoted, right? Thinking isn't... I mean, I just want to start making stickers that just say, think for yourself. There's no other motto, or they just do it and be all you can be.
I think my chair is on this effects pedal. Hold on a second.
That might actually be pretty cool, man. I wonder if you get some reverb on that chair.
Yeah.
So,
I can make some reverb on this chair if you want me to.
Oh, man. Well, anything for good programming, man. I mean, I'm down for any kind of experiments you want to go through.
Now we're going to talk about art, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Ooh, yeah. So, we have a bunch of slides that we're about to start here. Do you want to do you want to share with us?
Into the slides immediately?
Okay. No. I was going to say, do you want to share with us some of your history, or do you want to go straight into the slides? Your call. This is open segment.
Well, apparently, I've mixed up the slides to not be in some sort of historical order. So, I mean, I don't know. Do you want to talk about process or where I'm coming from? I mean, I have some pretty good stories, or I'm not sure.
Well, first of all, set us up. Where are you from, and what got you into art? Did you go to school, or were you doing art at a young age, or?
Yeah, I was always painter. I always loved. I started with markers, or probably started with crayons. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Yeah, probably started with that, and then anything with color and stuff. And then I loved markers and sketch pad when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
So would build forms, and even at a young, even being younger, and then got into high school, really was into portrait painting. So it sort of everything kind of evolved from that, and then I mean, there's definitely this linear thing that. There's a story. I mean, I can go there. I mean, I'm not going to talk for half an hour about nonstop, but so it was this thing, and I wanted to paint, and then it it gets coupled with tragedy and stuff. Okay, so should I talk about? Remember we talked.
I would like you to share
show.
this story.
I
if
think
you
this
want
is a pretty
to.
good
Yes.
story.
Yes.
And I mean, when I was lucky enough to do the Bushwick Open Studios at Sulphurbath, I was able to share this story. I have, you're supposed to write an artist statement, and I'm always pretty formal about that because I knew the Bushwick thing was a one-off weekend thing.
Yeah.
I was I'm going to write this fucking crazy artist statement and tell this story. So I'm in trying to get my BFA in this final year of college, and they had this big gallery set up, and there's all these paintings there, and had built this painting. It was huge. It was 8 by 4 feet. Stretched canvas, and the canvas had was treated with, they call it rabbit skin glue, which is basically rabbit, ground up rabbit skin, Anyway, so it makes the painting really tight. And then I had drawn on it with a soldering iron, this man in a chemical suit. And then treated it with paint and shellac, so it was pretty it was like a drum. When you hit it, it was boom. You know what I mean? It had that kind of boom kind of sound to it. So I was I just loved the way it sounded because I had somehow made this really fucking tight fucking thing. So I'm sorry for cursing. So I built a motor.
Totally fucking acceptable.
I built a motor that had this little arm on it. It was tiny. It was really little, and it just had this little thing that and would punch the painting 60 beats a minute, you know what I mean?
Like a little motor mounted to the back of the painting.
So
right?
we had this gallery, and it was a big gallery, and there were all these paintings hanging up, and mine was in the corner, and everyone had, there was some really good work there, and this was in Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, where I went to school, where I ended up going to school actually, transferring a bunch of times, and we had the famous artists from New York would show up there, and John Waters was one of the artists, but he was not the artist that told his story. So I'll use his level as whatever. So they're going around, and they get to my painting, and this guy one of the visiting artists, who wasn't commenting on much of the other paintings, actually, spoke up and was like, no, we're talking about that one last. And everyone's like, okay, like maybe he's trying to formulate what he's trying to say. Mm-hmm. So we go around, we have a critique about the... So you get we get back to my painting, and he just doesn't say anything about the art. He goes into this probably 20-minute diatribe about like being gang raped as a Boy Scout.
Oh my God.
And like everyone was like, holy shit. You know what I mean?
Wait, like in the moment when he was supposed to be critiquing
he was supposed to talk
your
about
painting.
my painting,
yeah.
you know? So it's this man in a chemical suit, like going, doo, 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 and like his thing was like, holy, I got fired, and he's like crying, and like all the other people there are like, what the fuck? You know, and like no one knew what to do. I got no support from the staff, by the way, so I won't bring that up. But, so I'm like fucking freaking out. I'm sorry to curse. I'm freaking out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why that happened.
Jesus, and he said, like, wait, we're going to save that one for last.
Yeah,
like, he had some...
Yeah, like,
I have a funny story
like,
about that painting.
Yeah.
He's like the guy you don't want to play in pool because he's like fucking setting... I'm sorry. He's setting the balls up. You know what I mean? Yeah, he was setting the balls up, right?
Jesus.
Anyway.
And so, and you're not going to drop a name on us, are you? We're not going to be that...
No, we can't talk about that.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't, yeah. But a known artist, right? Somebody that has clout and somebody that's there and the kids are looking up to, the students are looking up to him and looking like, how is my art?
One of the final sort of like gallery things we did, you know? Mm-hmm. So I was like, wow, that's like way... I don't want that responsibility. Mm-hmm. Right. I don't want to make somebody feel like that. So the next morning, I went into the gallery and took the painting. This show was supposed to hang for a month. Uh-huh. I went in the next day, took the painting, brought it outside, threw it down in the parking lot with lighter fluid, and lit it on fire. And I was like, I'm not painting it again. Next day, I went out and started a punk rock band. That's part of my art career, like that. So that took me a little while to get away from that. You know, and like to get back into like being like, well, you know, like I love music and stuff, but you know, my real strength is in painting. So
I think you're a very strong painter, man. I love your paintings.
I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
And I think that's an amazing story just because it's so absurd and crazy.
Yeah, you can't take that to heart. You know, you can't. There's no way
that guy was whoever that was, super selfish. Whoever.
Yeah,
it took me
super
years
selfish,
to realize,
dude.
like that. You know, it took me years to realize like maybe I like that wasn't my fault. You know what I mean? But like I really felt like I didn't want to bring up that sort of thing in somebody.
But at the same time, he knew to associate that with that painting. You know what I mean? Like he's just like, So I mean, on one level, I would take it as some sort of compliment, and the fact that like we're gonna save that one for last because I feel very strongly about this, no matter what direction.
I feel like I need to couple this emotion or my feeling about what happened with something else. So I had this great drawing teacher. His name was Simon Gouverneur. He was the best teacher I ever had. You could only draw in ink, so there's no erasing. You know what I mean? And he would make us do yoga in class. You know, imagine these are art classes. They're like 6 hours long. He'd be like, lay on the floor. He was like a badass, like kind of mean, had a beard. Like, you know.
How old were you? What period was this?
It was just like, I was like in my mid-20s. Okay. So I didn't go to school when I first got out of high school.
Yeah.
Anyway. He was a great teacher, and so we had studios, you know, a big line of windows, and outside the windows were the Mount Royal Bridge. You know, it's this beautiful little bridge, and at least I think it was called the Mount Royal Bridge. I kind of blocked a lot of shit out. So a week before, I had done this thing where the guys with the Boy Scout thing, that instructor hung himself off the bridge and killed himself. So like I'm dealing with all these real and it was like I didn't go there that day when he did it, but apparently you could see him.
I had a shop teacher.
I
had a shop teacher that hung himself.
Yeah, it's terrible, man.
It's awful.
And you question like why someone would. I mean, it's fine to give up, but that's a really big give up, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. This has nothing to do with painting.
But
mine was industrial arts.
It might have everything to do with it. Might have everything to do with making paintings.
Yeah, and I'm just picturing, but this was on campus where students of his could see it, right?
Oh, right outside the studio windows. Yeah.
Wow.
Apparently, it was really horrific.
Wow.
Jeez.
But I think I went like, I think I left town that day, or I had something to do, so I never saw it. I'm really thankful I never saw it, to be honest with you.
But I mean, those two stories show, I mean, I'm picturing you and your perspective of witnessing these things, and fresh from, oh, I'm going to become an artist and painting, and you're witnessing kind of the power of art. You know, I'm going to pick some cliche to say, but the power of art in the human psyche, dealing with life and expression and trying to get these feelings out, or just trying to have something to do. I mean, there's a lot of different avenues in the world of art, right? And you've told me two stories about teachers that you were being trained by, and these are the results. But at the same time, I'm looking at this art that you have on the wall, and I can't help but think that you've gleaned some sort of pretty deep insight about the kind of torture that can exist in an artist's life.
I mean, that's true, and like, even though I started out this interview with saying I wasn't going to get very historical about it, apparently I started out at the beginning, so yeah, you know, I mean, I always thrive off of, like, I do like things that, like, are destructive, and I do like things that are bad, but I also like things that are beautiful. I mean, I showed with this artist, I was lucky enough to show with him in your space, Justin Baldwin had such a great comment on my art, and he said it's like a jagged beauty, and I was really like moved by what he said, you know, and I hung out with him the next day. I was like, Justin, we have to hang out and talk about that. And I mean, it's such you're trying to like get to this thing that's like almost unachievable, but like you can't stop doing it, you know, so. Okay, so this is like sorry, that was so ridiculous. This painting's about like pushing the abstract. I mean, I'm trying to get away from the characters, but obviously the heads are already there. I mean, I haven't got to talk about the basis for this painting, so I don't know what to... Yeah, I think I'm done.
Yeah, you good?
Yeah.
Sure enough.
So sorry about that, Clark. That was some major technical difficulties, man.
When we would depend on machines.
Yeah.
See what happens?
I hope everybody at home is taking a good lesson about that.
You think your iPhone's gonna help you? You know, we've seen in the past. What is it?
Another machine.
Oh my God! In the past 20 minutes, how much machines can destroy creativity or destroy, like, at least, you know, whatever.
We had some momentum going.
I'm
It
not
was
giving
killed
this
a little
mic
bit,
up, bro.
but no, that's fine.
The roller coaster is already fucking crashed and burned. Dude.
Yeah.
Well, now we are live, actually.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's already fucking. We've got casualties at this point.
Casualties. Yeah.
Can you call in 911? We need an ambulance or something.
But we've got
because
wristbands.
it's
We can
not-
go on that roller
which
coaster
totally
over and
makes
over
sense,
again.
You know? Well, I will tell you what. I will tell you that's actually Sheila's going to tell you the same thing. It's about destruction and rebuilding. So we've already destroyed this interview, right?
This is all about life, death,
should
and
we try
rebirth.
to make
You
it
know.
better? What time is it?
Yeah, no, we got plenty of time. This is our shit. We're not waiting on a Doritos commercial or a Clorox commercial, you know. So I mean, do you want to talk about any more of your process? I would like for you to, but if you want, we can jump into the band. Because yeah, we have faced a little bit of technical difficulties, but there are a few things in here I don't want to move from. Before, you know, some of the things that folks at home miss, like the mosaic
why don't you
piece.
Pick something you like, and then we'll talk about.
Tell me about that mosaic piece. It's not actually like a mosaic.
The last one in the second row. Put that up.
Yes. Can you put that up?
G.I. Joe head.
I thought it was one of the barons.
I actually can tell you a story about that if you want to hear it.
Yeah, that's technically not. That's actually squares painted that you made that mosaic, and you said that's from a G.I. Joe
that's
head.
an 18 by 24 painting.
So that's a photograph of G.I. Joe head that you made a mosaic out of?
Well, I was like, this is like 2000, or early 2000s, and I realized like what pixelization was, and like I really wanted to like convey pixelization with a head.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually looks like, look how cool it looks there, like how small it is. Like you think it would be like a real thing, and then when you click on it, it's like, oh, it's pixelated, but it's not pixels. You know, it's actual paint.
Yeah, painted
I sound
squares.
like an idiot, dude. Like this interview's not going
Fuck
well.
it, we'll do it live! Fuck it!
Do you ever go see the Blues Brothers where they drive through that mall?
Yeah.
That's how I feel right now. That's how I feel.
Let's just be honest about that, man, and I think that's the perfect thing. I mean,
This is the
our
worst
fucking little
artist
streaming show.
interview ever. Like, it's...
Oh, I don't think ever, by
no.
far.
Oh no, not.
In fact,
Not
people at home are saying this is the best artist interview I've ever seen. Look at how honest this is fucking going down.
Really?
Yes. You wait till all the comments come in later. They'll be like, fuck everybody else on your show. Get Clark on there every week. And we're going to be like, okay, it's too much chaos, you know, but no, I'm just saying it's the honesty of it. This
I'm
is
lighting
the real
fires
world, you
the
know.
whole way. Like, I'm trying to, like, fucking destroy shit. You know what I mean? Like, if I destroy it, I can fix it and I can make it better. You know what I mean? Like, obviously your equipment feels this fucking same way.
You
This shit
described
went down.
yesterday on the roof, Clark. You described to me almost using those same words, your process in art, how you have to destroy something so that you can make it again.
There's definitely a destructive element in my art. But it's like you cause the casualties and then fix. Nah, see.
Mm-hmm.
My train of thought was broken so long ago that I don't think I can. I don't know, man. What? He says cause the casualty. He's trying to get political. He says like cause the casualties to go through. I'm not talking about actual casualties and actually fixing it. I'm talking about my brain. I'm talking about causing casualties in my brain and fixing it. Like I'm not, and putting it on with paint on this surface. Like I'm not talking about actual war casualties. Like there's no dead people. Is there dead brain cells?
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, but who's got them to spare? You know what I mean? Like, well, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. I'm done. Does this mic have an echo on it?
No.
It doesn't, does it?
It does not, no.
Man.
Why you want to like depart? Like, I'm out, out.
I don't know.
Out.
I don't even need to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Which
man. Best interview ever.
It's not the worst ever. We'll put a side by side up with some worse ones.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, you can put it side by side with the worst ones, but I'm sure it's like terrible. I'm sure it's the worst one. Like, it has to be.
That might be copyrighted.
Yo, give me a beat. Yo, hit it. Yeah, you know what's coming up next? Dead sexy Sheila.
Who is it? What's coming up?
So you can suck that, motherfucker!
Word.
Peace!
Ladies and gentlemen, Clark Carr, artist Clark. Hey, Clark, what's your webpage? We want people to go to it. clarkcarr.cc. We want everybody to check that out.
I know I'm coming in all gentle now. It's okay. I'm not trying to hurt you. It's Clark Carr with 2 R's. .cc.
Cool.
And I'm updating it this month. See, we could have gotten into this conversation.
Right down. Let's continue it.
Oh, okay.
Jesus.
I think we got attacked by the Klingons.
they start with the psychological ray.
Why
shit,
did they do
then,
that with that ray that like made us not able to project our image into?
You know that's what
I mean?
Yeah, modern military, they're really looking for something that can just interrupt systems without destroying infrastructure. And that's
Oh, you want to talk about that? You want to talk about that?
That's disgusting. Well, I thought that's where you were leading.
I think there's I think there's like a ray that like is gonna like disable electricity.
There is, yeah.
Like will fuck you up, like all in here, like boom.
Yeah.
Kind of like what happened during my interview. Like it would just go boom.
That might. I'm sure I'm on some CIA watch list. That totally could have been what just fucking happened. We won't know. The good thing is that people at home are still seeing the images and got to see the artwork and stuff.
You know what though? If you're watching this or listening to this interview in this radio show, you should not tune out because the band that's showing up is awesome. And
fucking
then
awesome.
And then what's going to even be better than that is the jam afterwards. I guarantee you it's going to be dope.
time that nothing is unseen. I made it out, then the down or the hockey. I saw fall out this morning. I tried to ride it the night before it moved me. That one was called Mr. Storyteller. The next song we're going to play is the title track from our new EP. It's entitled Death Bat Flies.
This song is called Death Bat Flies Again. run, 'cause the camp of good sensations are lost. 'Cause in this room it's just considered, but the perfect I don't get it. The honest mistake, and I'm spinning a block. I'm spinning loose, oh win and die. We had a good thing, but the rest of the street looking for good of the guys. I'm taking everything, looking at that. Do I need these things? Give me the silver touch, 'cause I'm an artist living with Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dead sexy Sheila.
Anybody need a beer?
Oh, yes.
Fresh beer. There you go.
Yeah, how good are they, man? How good are they?
Really amazing.
Yeah, they're
Clark, I'm so
amazing.
glad you suggested to bring these guys on. So you
No.
guys just fucked it up in here. I think it's that would be the proper.
That was 7 minutes of more chaos than Clark could do in 30 minutes. But he knows how superior music can sometimes be over other mediums of communication.
That whole show was for Clark's lost painting. It burned.
Yeah, in fact, I'm kind of. I was really excited when you guys asked us to come because we are such fans of kind of his work and how you guys were talking about kind of his process and how it is kind of this destroy it, build it up kind of thing, and how. I don't know. I think a little bit of it. We like to use a little bit of that kind of process in the way that we write songs and the way
I like
that
hanging with Clark. You know that feeling you get when you're like, humanistically, when something negative happens or gets destroyed, like there's a natural. You're like, oh, that's bad. But there's the times when you feel that's good. You know, you're like, oh, like.
It's so bad, it's good.
Yeah, maybe that wasn't necessary. The killing, the bombing, the war, but it did help later on. And that's how I feel when I drink with Clark.
Go Clark.
So he touches on the rarest and most, sacred part of my good feelings.
And my bad feelings.
Yeah. And how punk rock is that in essence? But at the same time, it's there's something very Brooklyn and dare I say grungy about all this. Not in the genre style, but grunge. But it's at the same time, to me, it's the pristine example of life, death, and rebirth. I mean, it's the punk rock version of what the Buddhists carry on about in koans. And I think
those guys.
I think it's I'm with those guys too. That's great. And I think it's really profound. This whole show tonight. I mean, I don't think. I'm glad you grabbed one of Clark's paintings. Can we get that on camera?
This is my personal favorite.
That one's amazing.
First
yeah.
time I saw this, I was like, "Who the fuck painted this?"
Right.
It turns out it was our homeboy Clark.
Yeah, go
Badass.
figure, right?
Spaceman got a wild acid trip. He's doing the robot. He's a ladies man. Look at those skinny. He's got the skinny jeans style fucking spaceman. I love it. Love this guy.
It's a hipster.
Awesome. that one was up on the wall for BOS, and a lot of people commented on
I hope
all
I
that.
didn't damage the painting with my sweaty, oily fingers, but I had to grab it. I had to represent.
They'll preserve it in the Library of Congress. Don't worry.
That's great. So, how long you guys been together as a band?
It's been about 2 years, actually. We I guess a little side note on kind of how we met and kind of how everything catalyzed. We used to live in this artist loft off the Halsey stop, and I was going to engineering school at the time.
345.
Yeah, 345 Elder.
345 Elder.
Yeah. The pirate ship, as opposed to the cruise ship across the street, which was a condominium. Yeah. So it was just kind of vicinity, and I've played in bands my whole life, and I was just kind of looking to get back into it, and sure as shit, fucking met these guys. I think it was at a...
Yeah, me and T were playing tunes. E.T. T is short for E.T.
Yeah, I'm E.T.
And
yeah, I'm sorry.
And and we needed a bass to round it out because sonically it's not good. It's like you get a flat tire when you hit a guitar solo and there's no bass line behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially me. I need bass. I follow Troy. He follows me.
Well, I'm not a bass player, so.
Well, yeah, you're a damn good bass player, even if you're not a bass player. But.
Yeah, I mean.
But he filled the void and did more than the last bass player we had. You know, Troy's been writing some songs that we're playing. Obviously, the one that he sang tonight.
Cool.
That was
Storyteller.
That was one of Troy's. Yeah, that's the first one of his that we learned.
Cool.
And now we're integrating that more, because in our old lineup, I used to write the tunes and we all arrange them together, and now we all just kind of write and arrange willy-nilly.
Mm-hmm. And the second song, was that your song, Scott? Or?
Yeah, we all arranged it together, but like the lyrics are mine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're all like pretty much arranged by all of us. Like feed off each other at practice, and we do like respect each other's roles in the band, and we just kind of, you know, like sometimes it's like, you know, this is what I'm playing, and you know, and that's what being in a band is all about.
Not changing.
If you were gonna tell other people in the band what to play, then you would be a solo artist.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's what makes it good.
It's all about having fun, you know. Don't lose track of that. It's about having fun.
Yeah.
As hard as it is sometimes. I mean, we hate each other at times, but we love each other more, and that's why our music's so wild and crazy.
Sounds like a family.
Yeah.
Every family.
A bit, yeah. A little dysfunctional in a lot of ways. I love our recent write-up we got in one of our good friends' magazine, 1.21 Gigawatts. Our friend Gwendolyn wrote the article, and it broke down kind of what the dynamic truly is of this band, because we're essentially three different egos battling for you know, some sort of.
We talked with her for an hour, and she nailed the archetypes.
Well, we should name them off though. I'm the mad scientist, obviously.
Oh God, I don't remember.
I'm the acid guru.
You're the acid guru, and I'm what the
Andrew W.K. Party archetype.
That's good.
It was E.T.'s birthday that day.
Me. Yeah, it's my birthday. I was wearing the beer helmet. I got it somewhere around here. I don't know. But yeah, I like to party. You know, I drive a van. We got a van. It's fucking awesome.
Shag carpet
it's a
covering the
big
ceiling.
Brown bomber, 1986 Dodge. You know, I'm sure. Yeah, it's seen a little bit of everything in its day. Not I want to go that far, but.
Yeah, we got the Boy Scout commemorative license plate.
It helps with the pigs.
Yeah, I got pulled over.
Pigs love that
actually.
shit.
It all turned out okay though.
So and you
got
talk
a good
about
picture with lady cops that night. I just want to point that out. That was a party moment too.
For the interview.
And they were kind of hot, kind of built, you know.
Yeah,
Busty.
Oh, lady cops love punk rockers,
Yeah.
man. I think they're
I
they're
couldn't
into
believe it.
musicians.
Rotund in a pleasing way, but they were very happy.
They took a picture with me. I was in the middle and I had my beer helmet on. Double fisting, beer helmet, and you know, it was my 20. How old am I? 25. I turned 25, so.
Yeah, New York's
It
finest.
was a good birthday.
They can't even
Heavyweights.
keep track of all their cops.
Yeah, exactly. And so you mentioned E.T. having fun, and I gotta say, I mean, you guys just exude that. It looks like, you know, the audience that you have must be jealous that they're not fucking up there with you. You guys are awesome. And
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times when the audience is up there with us.
We encourage that.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's kind of what this band is about. I mean, you know, I spent a few years trying to do the commercial thing and stuff, and you know, we're more just like friends and
you can't imagine how many bands in Brooklyn, like they talk about it, that they might be trying not to, but just subconsciously they'll talk about making it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
You can overhear them in the practice spaces that we all share, and you know, just like at bars and stuff, and they're like oh no, like, you know, like we have to write a song like this, like that's kind of like half of what New York is nowadays, honestly.
Oh, it's true. I see a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what's the formula? We're still looking for that perfect formula that we can. And it's like, well, who are you guys? That's your formula.
Yeah.
I think you guys are nailing it. Like, also the level of intensity you guys get up there, man. It's that plays. Hopefully, it'll play well over the internet. But in the room, being in the room with you guys, there's that energy. It's like, fuck, something's happening here.
Yeah.
And all three of you guys are fucking going buck wild.
It's true. I mean, we released our EP, our second EP actually, first with me, in March, and it is hard to kind of grasp the intensity of our performances with that recording. I mean, we did a lot of very, very unorthodox things in order to kind of portray that intensity. For example, we decided we were going to release it as a cassette tape, which, I mean, obviously in 2013, I don't know how many people in the room right now have a cassette tape, but I don't even have a cassette tape player.
It sounds awesome on cassette. Holy shit.
Check it out, man.
We're going to hook you guys up for sure.
Solar rock and roll. The first fucking thing we touched.
Love it.
Classic, man.
There it is.
See, Mike is hip,
right
dude.
there,
We gotta get you. Got a
Mike is on the
obviously.
jam.
But
we're gonna give you one before we leave.
Awesome.
Yeah, don't worry.
Brain cells ago for Ozzy.
Well, I think it's such a fetish item, the tape now, and there's something we've talked about that on other shows, and I also have a friend that wanted to do a tape label where I think he was gonna have like a download code with each tape or something.
That's
so it's
we
like,
did that.
Oh yeah, cool, awesome. So it's like I think that's really cool because it's the concept of it, and so you're making actually some statement whether you want to or not. That's like, hey, this is archaic, this is the form, but it's also bringing out this is what it used to be.
Yeah.
And so much is digital today, and like as bad as tapes could be, they were analog, and you can get some great,
I mean, even the little bit of compression we recorded everything digitally using Pro Tools and a mobile audio rig, and
well, some of it we recorded on the reel to reel.
Yeah, we recorded Mr. Storyteller on a reel to reel, but it was kind of this whole thing of like, we're really like it's too clean, like it needs to be dirty. It needs to sound like the fucking Bushwick basement that we fucking recorded the album in. And so the compression on the tape actually really just fucking drives it home, with all of the tonnage, and it was a really beautiful experiment that worked out in our favor, and we didn't really know it would or not. Yeah.
There's a famous, I don't know famous, but I remember hearing Steve Albini once talking about the first time he heard the Ramones.
Oh, okay.
And it was like on some shitty tape player that was like the tape was warping or something, but just the way he expressed that this was the coolest fucking thing he'd ever heard. And like to him, like how, he's got ears like a bat, so it's like you get in there and you see what he's listening to. But I remember hearing him talk about that, and that's reminded me of like what you're saying and describing about it. And I think that there's something when you're talking to the nature of really hardcore music like that, you can be lo-fi without being lo-fi.
You're absolutely right.
And there's something about that I love that kind of music, man.
Yeah.
And I think you guys. I haven't heard the tape, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, you don't worry, you'll get it. You'll get both the tape and the. We have a Bandcamp with the digital files up. It's www.bandcamp.deadsexysheila.com, and you can hear the digital tracks on there. But like I said, I mean,
you can download it on there.
It's a little different, like to be quite honest, listening to it on a cassette player. I mean, the compression from the tape is just enough where it's like the bass has a little distortion, the vocals have a little bit of a like raw to it. It's just a little more raw. Whereas like unless we're making this kind of music, doom doom doom, it's a little too clean. We like all the nuances. I mean, even when recording, there were so many mistakes that were made during tracking, and we were just kind of like, yeah, that was cool. Leave that in, you know. And
live off the floor. That's how we roll.
Yeah. We tried to really put our live performance really into a mass reproduced kind of product, and we did our best. It came out somewhat decent, but like I said,
it's a very difficult thing to do, especially with somebody like you guys that are so intense live and stuff.
Yeah.
And so poor.
That was another thing. The cassette tapes were about the same price to have blank CDs pressed, and we customized the whole thing. We did our own artwork.
Oh, cool.
We imprinted the tapes ourselves. We actually went through the only manufacturer of like cassette tapes left in the United States to do these really kind of customized. And it was this idea of having something like tangible, something real, I think, as opposed to just the CD, which is so
amalgam. End up on the floor of someone's camera.
Yeah. Like you can give them out free, and you still won't ever listen to them.
Some people buy tapes without even having a tape player, or even if they don't have a download code, they just buy them so they can put them on their windowsill.
Yeah, that was a really interesting phenomenon. Yeah, was seeing that. It's like that kind of like hipness factor coming back with tapes. It's like, you know, I'm buying an LP, you know, on vinyl, and I don't have a turntable, you know. It was like kind of cool. It was the poor man's kind of vinyl.
Well, and something to be said about embodying the music and putting it in a body. There's something shamanistic about that, right? And today it's all digital and it doesn't have a body. It doesn't have a form. We can get anything we want, right? Get on the internet and get it, but so I think there's something really cool about that. Like, this is embodied inside this.
Yeah.
And even if it's archaic, it's still like, you know.
Yeah, well, and it was also different than the digital. I mean, I think that was the most important part.
Best of both worlds, you know. We're
Yeah.
getting the digital, but we had the cassette to, you know, something to pass down to your kids, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Something tangible, you know.
We don't like the digital.
At least to us, I don't know.
We don't want to endorse it by handing out like a lot of bands at shows nowadays. For those of you in Iowa, they'll hand out like download code. They look like credit cards.
Yeah.
And they'll send you like a credit card.
Yeah.
Or like sell you a credit card even, where you can get music.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Terrible.
And a lot of that is like Walmart's people working on the next way to distribute music. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
God, it drives me nuts when I think how much of music media is consumed just through Walmart alone.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the last time I looked at it was something like 3/4 of all music like bought in this country was through Walmart, which personally it was like, you know, I remember as a kid going to Walmart to buy albums, and it was always they always
Dustin?
obviously, but they were always edited. They always edited.
Yeah, that's another shitty thing. Blockbuster always did that with the movies they ran too.
Yeah,
like we're a good Christian company, and so we're
right,
gonna make
exactly.
Sure.
And
Like, this isn't. Yeah,
it's so
laughable.
disrespectful to the individual artists. And I think immediately after, you know, I personally, for me, I started getting into kind of DIY scenes and kind of like I really started to appreciate and respect more of bands that tended to do things on their own and like produce things on their own, as opposed to some of the artists that I really like that were being sold in Walmart or Target or, you know, any of those record shops or something.
And then that leads to what you're talking about earlier about all the bands sitting around saying, "Oh, what's that formula that'll get us the fuck into Walmart?
Yeah.
Can't wait to get into Walmart."
Yeah,
all
River
respect
Cuomo,
aside.
Harvard. You know, Weezer. That guy wrote his dissertation on how to write a pop song.
David Byrne just released a book about it.
Yeah?
It even goes into like how to start a scene.
Oh,
that's
God.
a chapter.
Oh, man.
But the book's really appealing to me because it's like the book jacket is like foam and it's really squishy.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. I love David Byrne. But
Yeah, he's great. But okay, cool. So, and you guys are playing some live shows local soon, right?
Yeah, we are always playing in Brooklyn, like always.
Good. Awesome.
We do have a couple shows coming up, Paper Box and Bowery Electric. I don't even remember the dates.
You
now.
said the 19th and the 25th for the Paper Box.
Yes, and then we're playing
September 7th.
Yeah.
At Bowery Electric.
Bowery Electric,
yeah.
which is in Manhattan.
In that big old city. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. And then beyond that, we're actually slated to record our next new album. Probably by the end of October, we're gonna start on that.
Cool.
Which is gonna be a whole nother crazy experiment, completely different than
Do you already have
last.
like a plan, a studio, and engineer, everybody lined up for that?
Yeah, we're the engineers. It's gonna be in my loft.
Awesome.
Full length, hopefully.
E.T. and I have some chops. We interned at a recording studio for a little while.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we know our way around a cables, so that's about enough. That's about as much as you need.
Yeah, and I've produced my own solo kind of stuff before in the past, so yeah, we have enough expertise between the two of us. I just need probably a new Mac with Logic X on it, and we'll be golden. But also, you know, we're doing it in my loft. You know, it's as DIY I think as humanly possible.
It's in a wood shop.
Yeah, it's in a wood shop,
Nice
so
ceilings.
we'd like to
Yeah, I
get
was
some
gonna say,
saw blade sounds in there. Like,
Sounds like it might have some good acoustics, though, no?
Oh yeah, great
Yeah.
high ceilings.
it
Cool.
really
Big
does. That
walls.
was the thing. Yeah, we couldn't justify going to, you know, paying, you know, for a studio, and it was like, dude, we got this here. We can do it whenever
Yeah.
we want. Like,
Yeah.
we could really just invest maybe, you know, a few $100s in some extra equipment.
And then you have hundreds more hours than you would have otherwise. Yeah. that's
Yeah,
definitely-
yeah,
hours.
and, you know, I'm kind of bored with the nightlife lately, so I need something to do at night. Might as well do some recordings.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It costs money to eat acid in a studio. It's like 10 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You got to know before.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to need at least 10 hours.
Yeah. I mean, doing drugs in the studio can be really expensive.
Yeah, right. Like, let's, can we come back tomorrow morning and just start over again?
Yeah, it's great when it's in your apartment. Fucking 4 a.m., you know, like, hanging out.
Yeah, that's how we recorded the vocals for Storyteller. That one, I started with a metronome, and then I did the guitar on my reel-to-reel half-inch tape player, and then we did the drums in the tape player.
In the living room.
One night, Troy and I were wasted. He was like, I'm ready. I'm doing the vocals now. I was like, you sure? Throw it on.
Go.
Good way to piss off the neighbors, you know, that's what we're all about.
Yeah.
Trying to raise a ruckus.
The Hasidics are trying to make it yuppie friendly lately. They've been coming down on us for practicing in that building.
Although when they got you guys in there, they probably told you practicing was totally cool.
Oh, of course. They, in fact, they marketed it as perhaps one of the most famous artist loft in, like, oh, you know, Kim Gordon used to live here. You know.
Great, it's not the same Kim Gordon. But
I'm like, Kim Gordon?
They own the building across the street that we referred to before as the cruise ship. Yeah, they're the cruise ship, and we're the pirate ship. We have water balloon battles and shit.
Parties on the roof.
They were throwing. They were showing the building to, you know, a lovely couple, LL Bean style, across the street, and we could hear them from our rooftop. And they were like, "What's that building over there?" Because they sound like a bunch of shirtless people shotgunning beers or whatever. And they're like, "Oh, that's the famous artist loft."
The zoo. You don't go beyond the cage.
Darling, we have an artist loft across the street. It's amazing.
We need to raise our children here.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Well, perspective and everything. You know, watching you guys rock it was really amazing tonight. I'm gonna bring in a posse of friends and we're gonna come see you guys live. I want to see all that shit kicking like in a real place.
Oh yeah, when the beer is flowing, it's still.
I love posses.
Magic in the air.
Awesome. So yeah, we're gonna I guess break the show down now. We're gonna do a little improvised thing that we always do. Feel free to grab
play
an
some more
instrument.
music.
Play some more music. This time totally improvised, and anybody can just jump and grab an instrument, anything that makes noise.
Yeah, I'm not gonna play bass.
Can I?
Let's get the cat in on this.
Yeah,
Can we
I want
get
the
cat?
cat. That's what I was
What's
just
the cat's
thinking.
name?
Billy. Every once in a while, in the
Billy
middle of the
Holiday.
night, this piano will be open, and she'll just do one of these.
Oh, nice. I love that.
At 4 in the morning, and I swear it's the loudest thing in the world when there's no
Japanese
sound around. Cool. Well, anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. Episode 11, Inside the Sulphurbath.
Thanks for watching.
I do want to thank everybody that joined us tonight. I want to thank Clark Carr, artist Clark Carr. Thank you so much.
CC Rider.
I want to thank Blaine Kneece.
And Emmanuel, that story was amazing, brother.
Yeah,
that was
fuck
fucking
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, thank you so much
Really
for being on. Like I said,
inspirational.
we really want you to come back in a few months, and once you're settled a little bit more in New York.
Emmanuel's a sweet man. Read his book.
Yes. And the book's called what? Farad? Yes. Check that out. And we're going to put on the archive, we'll have all the links to that. I also want to thank Shaun Randol and the Mantle, mantlethought.org. We always encourage everybody to get on there and check out some cool blogs. And I want to thank the band Dead Sexy Sheila. You guys are fucking amazing. Thank you.
It was
for
our
joining
pleasure
us.
being here, Mike.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Cool. All right. Thanks again, everybody.
This is all like something's about to happen, like the calm before a storm. How many instruments we got? We got 1, 2, 3. We got a digital instrument. We got a drum. We got a bass. I don't even know if I'm being recorded right now. I I don't know if I'm even saying anything that can be heard. Groovy sounds, ethereal flows, prose.
Looking for diction, you're not gonna find it. You think it's some wealth, you think it's some health, you think it's some way to go.
Yeah, out of control. I don't know how
You
my
think
soul
it's some way to know.
will be consoled. Oh, no.
You think it's a dribble.
What's happening? What's happening? I'm capturing a moment in time.
It's not a Star Trek dribble.
Whoa, beam me up, Scotty. Oh my God, I'm on land. I think that they forgot me. Rah. Vocal.
Alligator head, pink, Frankenstein, t-shirt,
Tap.
lit red owl. I can't hear you. Your mic's not coming in.
Okay. I'm cheering a lot. Okay.
I can take you an astronaut.
Word. Yo, sunglasses at night. Okay. Usually, at this point, I would like kick a freestyle.
Actually, Sheila guitars.
This whole atmosphere is mad punk rock.
Lizards in the marsh.
Yeah. Colorful skies, hovers by. I see the clouds closing up over my eyes. I don't know what the truth
Alligator
is.
heads and panoramas.
Yeah.
Can I get a hand for Fumio? Can I get something for Fumio?
Maybe a beer.
Pink Frankensteins! Pink Frankensteins! Pink Frankensteins! And you can't stop! Woo! And you thought it was over. You thought you'd be over. A Mars rover. Woo! Woo!
Don't know where I'm going, know where we're coming from. I'm about to put my feet on the ground and start to run. Gone, then I'm gone, like I'm back on the spot. I'm never what I wasn't. Right now I am hot. Just a spark in the dark. Flash in the park. Light on the mark. License the lark. Life on the edge. Edge that's been caught. And edge that's been cut. Guess what? I'm here to live it up. Woo!
Repetition. You think it's a beautiful thing. You think it goes. You think it makes one thing, but makes another. Go, flowers, red, owl.
Mighty Morphin
Pink
Power Ranger.
Frankenstein. Pink Frankenstein.
Pink Frankenstein.
alligator taxidermy in Bushwick.
Orange. Owl.
Alligator taxidermy in Bushwick.
Bushwick taxidermy. It's on.
Turn that other mic on. Turn that.
It's up a little bit.
Everything is grabbing me down. Maybe you shouldn't have made a robot show up. Maybe you shouldn't have made a robot show up. What I got? Watch your head. What I got? Watch your head. When I stop, what's a dick? Stop. What's a dick? When I stop, what's a dick? When I stop, what's a dick? When you stop, at the head. And you thought it was victory and alliance. And you thought it was really soft science. Science.
It's all scientific mystic. And you can't resist it. Shell shock, leave them ballistic.
Don't be a drummer. Don't be a bummer. Watch the drummer.
Get a drummer some. Westwood.
Inside the Sulphurbath, episode 11.
Episode 11. 11.
Want to thank Clark Carr. Want to thank Dead Sexy Sheila.
Pink Frankenstein.
Want to thank Emmanuel Iduma.
Frankenstein. Pink Frankenstein.
Thank Fumio Tashiro, Miho Morita, Dean Brown, Blaine Kneece, Shaun Clark, Shaun Randol.
Should I be quiet again?
Troy,
Like when the transmission
Scott,
broke.
E.T., Dead Sexy Sheila. Thank you guys very much. Episode 11. Have a good night, you guys. Thank you.
Woo! Pink Frankenstein. Pink Frankenstein. I gave you so much. And what did you do? What did you do? Nothing. Everything. Like a phantom violence in the silence. Like a brick without a stick. Like a fairway without getting caraway. Like a cigarette smoldering.